Before we start the approach to a patient presenting with dyspnea, we must know about what is dyspnea. So dyspnea is subjective experience of breathing discomfort. Means only patient can experience it. You cannot experience it. It is the experience of patient, and that's why it can be very variable. That experience of the patient depends upon his psychological, physiological, social and environmental factors. And what clinician can do? Clinician can assess and measure the signs of increased work of breathing, like tachypnea, use of accessory muscles of respiration, and chest retraction. So this is a background information that dyspnea is a subjective experience of the patient, and therefore it will be variable. Now coming to the the key word is here subjective. Subjective means it is patient specific. It will depend upon his socio-economic profile, his environment, his wording, his expression. So it will be subjective. And what will be objective? That you can, as a clinician, assess, that is work of breathing, like increased work of breathing, tachypnea, means increased rate of respiration, use of accessory muscles of respiration, and chest retraction. Now coming to the approach to the patient with dyspnea. We shall discuss this approach under some headings, like first of all, system. I will be elaborating on all the things. Then disease process. Then examples of diseases. What are the systems involved? What is the disease process involved? And what are the examples of diseases which present with dyspnea? Then dyspnea symptoms. I have already told you that it is subjective experience of the patient. So same thing, dyspnea will be described differently by different disease processes, in different diseases, and also according to the patient's subjective experience. So there is word called dyspnea symptoms. Even tachypnea, increased rate of respiration, is a symptom of dyspnea. Dyspnea is a very collective word, subjective word. Increased respiratory drive. air hunger. These are all I will be telling you in more systematic and simple manner subsequently. So these are the dyspnea symptoms, and then we shall be discussing about physical finding. Physical finding. Then mechanism of dyspnea. What is the real mechanism behind the dyspnea? And seventh will be initial diagnostic studies. So this is the structure or the skeleton of the today's CME, that a patient presenting with dyspnea will be described under these 7 headings: system, disease process, examples of diseases, dyspnea symptoms, physical findings, mechanism underlying dyspnea, you may write, and initial diagnostic studies for the same. This will complete the approach to a patient presenting with dyspnea. Now, coming to the all these 7 headings one by one. We shall be under system part. System, we shall be studying pulmonary, then pulmonary and cardiac, both system combined. Cardiac, and fourth will be other. So these are the systems. These other systems like endocrine system, nervous system, and miscellaneous things that I will be telling you. So systems, pulmonary, there can be pulmonary causes of dyspnea, there can be pulmonary and cardiac combined, there can be cardiac alone, and other. Now coming to the examples of next one, these are the these are the systems. Now the disease process. In case of, coming to the one by one, what will be the disease processes in case of pulmonary? In case of pulmonary, there will be airway disease, Number 2 will be parenchymal disease, and number 3 will be chest wall disease. Means a patient of pulmonary system can have these disease processes: airway disease, parenchymal disease, and chest wall disease. So this will be disease process, and now I am elaborating one by one. First of all, I should enumerate all the causes of pulmonary, cardiac, and cardiac and others also. So these are the airway disease process. So in case of airway disease, there can examples. Now the fourth part will be examples of diseases. So airway diseases examples will be asthma, in airway. under pulmonary system, the airway diseases. Airway diseases, examples of airway diseases will be asthma, COPD, and upper airway obstruction. Upper airway obstruction. So, a patient of asthma, COPD, and upper airway obstruction usually happens in children, like foreign body impaction, and rarely laryngeal malignancy in elderly also. So, these are the disease conditions, examples of diseases which can cause dyspnea: asthma, COPD, upper airway obstruction. Now, under pulmonary heading, this was the airway disease. And in pulmonary system, there are three subparts: airway disease, parenchymal disease, and chest wall. Now the examples of parenchymal lung disease. I can write it as A, airway disease; B, parenchymal diseases. Parenchymal disease, example of parenchymal disease, it is a group of diseases, that is interstitial lung disease. Interstitial lung diseases. That includes a large number of conditions. So, interstitial in parenchymal diseases, there is interstitial lung disease which causes dyspnea, and chest wall diseases that can cause dyspnea are kyphoscoliosis, and neuromuscular weakness, like myasthenia gravis. Even the Guillain-Barré syndrome, there can be weakness of chest wall. So, kyphoscoliosis, neuromuscular weakness. These are the examples of diseases of pulmonary system which can cause dyspnea, right? And now I am coming to the both pulmonary and cardiac condition which can cause dyspnea. And afterwards I will be telling you symptoms, physical findings. After the enumeration of all the diseases, examples of diseases, symptoms, physical findings, mechanisms underlying dyspnea, and treatment. No, not treatment, initial diagnostic study. So, number 2 is system is pulmonary and cardiac. So, pulmonary and cardiac system, the disease process will be in pulmonary vasculature. In pulmonary and cardiac system, the disease process will be in pulmonary vasculature, and the example of the disease will be pulmonary artery hypertension. So this is the example of pulmonary vascular disease process. pulmonary arterial hypertension, and now under the cardiac system, under cardiac system, the disease process can be left heart failure and pericardial disease. These are the disease processes: left heart failure and pericardial diseases. These are the disease processes in cardiac system. And examples of diseases presenting with left heart failure can be coronary artery disease, and cardiomyopathy. Right? Coronary artery disease and cardiomyopathy. These are the conditions which create the process of left heart failure. An example of left heart failure can be coronary artery disease and cardiomyopathy. And for pericardial diseases, the example will be constrictive pericarditis, and cardiac, number 2, cardiac tamponade. So you should think about ultimately these conditions become the causes of dyspnea. So what will be the cardiac causes of dyspnea? Coronary artery disease, cardiomyopathy, constrictive pericarditis, and cardiac tamponade. You should know, you should keep all these things while you encounter a patient of dyspnea. And how you will reach down to the actual diagnosis, I will be telling further through the symptoms, physical findings, mechanisms underlying, and initial diagnostic study. Now the other. Now there is other system. Under other system, the disease process can be variable. Anemia, deconditioning, means patient is not accustomed to a particular place or weather, and he is exposed immediately to that condition. In that case, the patient will feel discomfort, and that is called deconditioning. Suppose someone is all of a sudden put to a very high mountain top without acclimatization. The people who ascend mountain gradually, they acclimatize themselves or simply condition themselves. But if somebody will be airdropped at a very high place, left without any preparation, then he will feel deconditioning. So that also creates dyspnea. So anemia, deconditioning, psychological, metabolic, and gastrointestinal causes. Example of gastrointestinal causes will be like GERD, gastroesophageal reflux disease, and aspiration. So These are the other causes of dyspnea: anemia, deconditioning, psychological causes, metabolic, and gastrointestinal. So these are the other. This comes under other systems, and their example will be variable. There will be variable examples. There can be no particular name of these things. The patient can give you variety of descriptions. As I have already told you, that the dyspnea is a subjective experience of breathing discomfort, and that can be described according to the patient's social, environmental, physiological, psychological makeup. Now coming to one by one. So first of all, we had started with the, let us prepare a chart, and you will write, because writing myself will be very cumbersome and time taking. I will just I am creating a table and you will be writing those things. I will dictate and you will write. First is, there will be system, then disease process, then examples of disease process, examples of disease, dyspnea symptoms. This dyspnea symptoms means the symptom of dyspnea will be described under different name. Dyspnea symptoms, physical findings, mechanism underlying dyspnea, or simply mechanism of dyspnea. What is the mechanism which is causing dyspnea in this patient? And initial diagnostic studies. So these are the different headings, and I have already described. There was pulmonary, and under pulmonary there were three disease processes, places of disease processes. Number one was airway, number two was parenchymal lung diseases, parenchyma, and number three was chest wall disease. Airway diseases, parenchymal diseases, and chest wall diseases. This was under pulmonary. Now the cardiac and pulmonary both combined. What is common in cardiac and pulmonary system? Common thing between cardiac and pulmonary system is pulmonary vasculature. So disease process lies in pulmonary vasculature, and which is common to cardiac and pulmonary vasculature, and the disease vasculature. Now I have not enumerated. I will be filling all these things. Rest of just enumerating the disease processes. And in cardiac system, the disease process will be two: left heart failure and pericardial disease. diseases. Okay? And others. There will be other. In other, I have told you about anemia. Disease process will be anemia, deconditioning means patient is not conditioned to a particular environment. A very hot, a place of very hot weather, very dry air is coming to someone's ear. That is also called deconditioning. Anemia, deconditioning, psychological, metabolic and gastrointestinal causes of dyspnea like gastroesophageal reflux disease and aspiration. So, aspiration pneumonitis that can cause. These are the various disease processes, and the example of airway disease. Now you can write airway disease. Examples of airway disease will be asthma, COPD, and upper airway obstruction. And in case of parenchymal disease, interstitial lung disease, ILDs. These are group of diseases, ILDs. And chest wall, you can write kyphoscoliosis and neuromuscular weakness. There can be many causes of neuromuscular weakness, but you should know that in chest wall there can be two kinds of diseases: kyphoscoliosis and neuromuscular. Kyphoscoliosis is a structural deformity, and this is neuromuscular weakness. And now for cardiac and pulmonary combined, there is common thing, that is pulmonary vasculature. And the disease example of disease will be pulmonary arterial hypertension. And under cardiac system, left heart failure can be due to coronary artery disease and cardiomyopathies. Coronary arteries and cardiomyopathies can cause dyspnea, and in case of pericardial diseases, there will be constrictive pericarditis and cardiac tamponade. Constrictive pericarditis and cardiac tamponade. And examples: anemia, deconditioning, psychologic, metabolic, and GI. There can be variable examples. Different psychiatric conditions also cause dyspnea. Even metabolic causes like diabetic ketoacidosis causes dyspnea. So that can be variable examples. And now, so you should first of all get down this one. Examples of diseases. First of all, your mind should be able to know what can be the different causes of dyspnea. System-wise, pulmonary, cardiac, and other. So this is for systematic study, but you should keep in mind what are the. So these are the causes of dyspnea. These are the different causes of dyspnea: asthma, COPD, upper airway obstruction, interstitial lung disease, kyphoscoliosis, neuromuscular weakness, pulmonary artery hypertension, coronary artery disease, cardiomyopathies, constrictive pericarditis, cardiac tamponade, and there are other causes. So these are important causes which you should know as cause of dyspnea. Now coming to this one, airway disease. Symptoms of airway diseases, parenchymal disease, chest wall disease. These become separate. That's why they have been classified. And here just this one is now common. So asthma. What will be the symptom of asthma, COPD and upper airway obstruction? So let's write down symptoms because it will be very cumbersome and difficult to write in such a small space for me. So airway diseases, taken together, airway diseases, the dyspnea symptoms of airway diseases will be chest tightness, air hunger, chest tightness. After chest tightness, you should write tachypnea. Tachypnea is both a subjective feeling of the patient and also the objective finding of the clinician. So, dyspnea symptoms first will be chest tightness, tachypnea, increased work of breathing, air hunger, and inability to get deep breathing. Inability to get a deep breathing. So, chest tightness, tachypnea, air hunger, increased work of breathing, and inability to get a deep breathing. And physical findings in case of airway diseases will be wheezing, use of accessory muscles of respiration, and exertional hypoxemia. This exertional hypoxemia happens especially in COPD. I told you about symptoms. What were the symptoms? Chest tightening, tachypnea, increased work of breathing, air hunger, and inability to take a deep breath. Okay, now the physical findings was wheezing, write it here, wheezing, increased use of accessory muscles of respiration, and exertional hypoxemia. Now mechanism underlying airway diseases, dyspnea in airway diseases, it is mechanism is also increased work of breathing, hypoxemia, hypercapnia, and increased pulmonary receptors sensitivity. So these are the mechanisms of dyspnea in case of airway diseases. Increased work of breathing, hypoxemia, hypercapnia, and pulmonary receptor sensitivity. Increased pulmonary receptor sensitivity. And what will be the initial diagnostic studies in case of airway diseases like COPD, asthma? It is very simple. Peak flow spirometry, chest X-ray, CT of the chest, and upper airway examination like laryngoscopy in case of upper airway obstruction. So this will be the initial diagnostic study. What will be the peak flow? Peak flow will be reduced. A spirometry will show obstructive ventilatory defect. And in your chest X-ray, there can be hyperinflation and decrease in lung volume in case of COPD. So these are the initial diagnostic studies. Now I talked about airway diseases. Now coming to the parenchymal disease like interstitial lung disease. In case of interstitial lung disease, the dyspnea symptom will be air hunger and inability to take deep breath. Air hunger and inability to take deep breath. These will be the dyspnea symptoms in case of ILD. And what will be the physical findings in case of ILD? There will be dry and inspiratory crackles. Dry and inspiratory crackles. At the end of inspiration, you will find crackling sound in case of interstitial lung disease. Dry and inspiratory crackles, clubbing, and exertional hypoxemia. Exertional hypoxemia is found in ILDs also. Okay? And now the mechanism underlying the dyspnea in case of ILDs. Again, the mechanism is increased work of breathing, increased respiratory drive, hypoxemia, hypercapnia, and increased sensitivity of pulmonary receptors. Same as in airway disease, there is only one addition: increased respiratory drive in case of ILD. Remember it, there is increased respiratory drive in case of interstitial lung disease. And initial diagnostic studies will be same: spirometry, chest X-ray, and chest CT. Now coming to the chest wall disease. In case of chest wall disease, there will be dyspnea symptoms will be increased work of breathing, and inability to get a deep breath. And what will be the finding in case of chest wall disease? Chest wall is compromised. The physical findings will be decreased diaphragm excursion during respiration. The movement of diaphragm will be very restricted. That is called decreased diaphragm excursion. This will be the physical findings in case of chest wall disease like kyphoscoliosis. And mechanism of dyspnea. Again, the mechanism of dyspnea in chest wall disease is increased work of breathing, because patient has to exert more, that's why he feels dyspnea, and there might be increased pulmonary receptor sensitivity. This pulmonary receptor sensitivity happens in case of chest wall disease only when there is associated atelectasis. Atelectasis is a kind of collapse of the lung. So, increased work of breathing and increased pulmonary receptor sensitivity if there is associated collapse of the lung also in case of kyphoscoliosis and neuromuscular disease. And what are the initial diagnostic studies? In case of chest wall, we do a spirometry, and also in case of interstitial lung disease, we will do a spirometry. Chest wall disease, a spirometry, and MIP and MEP. What is MIP and MEP? Maximal inspiratory pressure and maximal expiratory pressures. Both of these will be reduced in case of chest wall disease, because patient cannot maximally inspire as well as maximally expire. Therefore, the maximal inspiratory pressure and maximal expiratory pressure both will be reduced in case of chest wall disease. Now coming to the combined system involvement, that is cardiac and pulmonary. What is common in cardiac system and pulmonary system? It is pulmonary vasculature. Pulmonary vasculature comes under cardiac system as well as pulmonary systems. And the example of pulmonary vascular disease is just only one, which you should know: pulmonary artery hypertension. Okay, and in case of pulmonary hypertension, the dyspnea symptom, the mode of presentation of dyspnea is a combined term, and its presentation, its name can be different. The name of dyspnea symptom in case of pulmonary hypertension is tachypnea. Even the increased rate of respiration is a kind of dyspnea. Remember it. And that increased rate of respiration can cause breathing discomfort. You should keep one word: breathing discomfort is dyspnea. Dyspnea is a subjective breathing discomfort, and this breathing discomfort can be due to increased rate of respiration. So tachypnea can cause dyspnea. Tachypnea is a symptom which creates dyspnea. Okay. So in case of pulmonary hypertension, patient presents with tachypnea. This is very important. You should remember it, because pulmonary arterial hypertension can be asked in your examination. Pulmonary arterial hypertension presents with tachypnea, and this tachypnea causes dyspnea in case of pulmonary arterial hypertension. And what will be the physical findings in pulmonary arterial hypertension? There will be increased right heart pressure, and that, of course, that is measured through cardiac catheterization. So there will be increased right heart pressure, but how you will measure it physically? Increased right heart pressure is measured through raised GBP, tender hepatomegaly, and pedal edema. Pedal edema, tender hepatomegaly, and raised GBP. These are signs of right heart failure. So right heart failure is found in case of pulmonary hypertension. And there is another symptom for physical finding which is also important, which is also found in COPD, that is exertional hypoxemia. There is hypoxemia while patient exerts upon simple exercise. So signs of right-sided heart failure, the signs of increased right heart pressure, and your right, that is exertional dyspnea, exertional hypoxemia, signs of increased right-sided pressure and exertional hypoxemia. These are the physical findings in case of pulmonary hypertension. And what is mechanism of dyspnea in case of pulmonary hypertension? In case of pulmonary hypertension, there is increased respiratory drive, hypoxemia, and increased pulmonary vascular receptor sensitivity. Increased respiratory drive, hypoxemia, and increased vascular receptor sensitivity. Of course, pulmonary vascular receptor sensitivity. So this is the mechanism in case of pulmonary hypertension. And what are the initial diagnostic studies? We do diffusion studies, ECG and echo. Diffusion studies, ECG and echo, because echo can measure the pulmonary arterial pressure. So these are the initial diagnostic studies. Now coming to the cardiac system, the left heart failure. Left heart failure is caused by coronary artery disease and pericardial and cardiomyopathy, and constitutive pericarditis, cardiac tamponade, and pericardial disease. Now dyspnea symptom is the rest of the things is similar in case of this, just the examples of diseases are different. Dyspnea symptom, physical findings, mechanism of dyspnea, and initial diagnostic studies will be same. In case of cardiac, this is same group. So dyspnea symptoms, chest tightness and air hunger. In case of cardiac diseases, dyspnea symptom will be chest tightness and air hunger. And physical findings, In case of physical findings in left heart failure, there will be increase in left heart pressure, increase in left heart pressure, weight rals, weight. There was dry inspiratory crackles in case of interstitial lung disease, and there is weight rals, rails, RALE, weight rals in case of left heart failure. And there is called condition called pulsus paradoxus in case of pericardial diseases, that is found in cardiac tamponade. So raised left heart pressure, basal rals, weight basal rals, and pulsus paradoxus. And pulsus paradoxus will be found in cardiac tamponade, that is pericardial disease. That will be the physical findings. Mechanism of dyspnea in case of cardiac disease: there is increased work of breathing, increased respiratory drive, hypoxemia, increased vascular and pulmonary receptor sensitivity. In case of cardiac disease, the mechanism of dyspnea is increased work of breathing, increased respiratory drive, hypoxemia, and an increased vascular and pulmonary receptor sensitivity. And definitely, what will be the initial diagnostic studies? In case of heart failure, initial diagnostic study is BNP, brain natriuretic peptide. Although we don't do here, but we should know what is the ideal one. Initial study is estimation of brain natriuretic peptide. Then you can go for ECG, echo, even exercise testing, that is called treadmill testing, and finally you can go for LHC, that is left heart catheterization. That is advanced thing. So BNP, ECG, echo, exercise testing like treadmill testing, and you may go for left heart catheterization. So these are the initial diagnostic testing in case of dyspnea of cardiac origin. Now the other causes are anemia, deconditioning, psychologic, metabolic, and GI. So in case of dyspnea symptoms, this will be variable in this group. Sorry, this is variable. Examples are variable. Various other disease, decay, and some of the patients called dysthymia, cyclothymia. They are persistent. There will be persistent mild depression, and such patients also present with subjective feeling of discomfort. So the dyspnea symptoms will be exertional breathlessness. Number one, exertional breathlessness, poor fitness. In this case, deconditioning. A person has been put to a hill station, and now he is not fitting with the environment. That is called poor fitness. Adjust नहीं हो पा रहा है, उसको साउंड जैसा लग रहा है, तरह तरह का शब्द का प्रयोग अगर हिंदी में बोला जाएगा तो in exertional breathlessness, anemia, and even anxiety. Anxiety is also a presentation of dyspnea. Anxiety can also present you as breathing discomfort, and it happens many times, especially young boys and girls which come in OPD. So, exertional breathlessness, poor fitness, and anxiety. These can be the dyspnea symptoms in other, and physical findings will be variable, and mechanism of dyspnea is also variable. in these things. Actually, there are no organic cause. That's why. And what will be the initial diagnostic studies for case? In case of anemia, you can do CBC. For metabolic causes, you can go for metabolic panel, thyroid function testing, and for gastrointestinal causes like GERD and aspiration pneumonitis, you can go for upper GI endoscopy, esophageal pH probe testing, and there can be concern for aspiration pneumonitis. You can go for chest X-ray to rule out that one, and ruling out other causes in case of psychological. Then only you can. So these are the initial diagnostic studies. CBC, important is CBC, metabolic panel, thyroid function test, upper GI endoscopy, esophageal pH monitoring for GERD, and for aspiration pneumonitis you may go for chest X-ray, and you have to also rule out other causes to reach down to psychiatry, because until you rule out organic causes, you cannot level anything as psychology. So this was somewhat complicated, but I think if you go through it again and again, many things should be clear. And I should once again summarize that you should first of all know important causes of dyspnea, and how you will remember causes of dyspnea as pulmonary, cardiac and other causes. In pulmonary there can be airway disease, there can be parenchymal disease, there can be chest wall. Okay, and airway, example of airway disease: asthma, COPD, upper airway obstruction. Okay, in case of parenchymal disease, the example will be ILDs. In case of chest wall disease, you can remember kyphoscoliosis and neuromuscular weakness. In case of cardiac and pulmonary, so remember, cardiac and pulmonary common thing is pulmonary vasculature, and the disease process is there is only one: pulmonary artery hypertension. For cardiac causes of dyspnea, there are two groups: left heart failure and pericardial diseases. Causes of left heart failure: coronary artery disease, cardiomyopathy. And causes of pericardial disease: constrictive pericarditis, cardiac tamponade. And other causes can be anemia, deconditioning, psychologic, metabolic, gastrointestinal, like GERD and aspiration pneumonitis. So these are the important causes, and once you remember these important causes, then you can have these things: symptoms, clinical findings. And even if you don't remember this one in emergency department, it is okay. At least you will be deriving these things and these things automatically. A patient of asthma, COPD, wheezing, use of excessive muscles of respiration, exertional hypoxemia is difficult to assess, but at least you should know. So these are the things. First of, if you know the causes, then physical findings and initial diagnostic studies becomes easy. And initial diagnostic studies in COPD, asthma we do here, although we don't do, but we should do. Peak flow, spirometry, chest X-ray, and CT we do. So accordingly, for rest of the things also you should at least remember these things: physical findings and initial diagnostic studies. And most important is examples of diseases causing. So diseases, physical findings, initial diagnostic study. You should go once again while you go to your home. And I think I did my best today, and you must have learned something new today. Okay, thank you.